Selina and the Shoo-Fly pie. Selina and the Shoo-Fly pie. All right, here we go. Selina stood happily before the open window of her own little bedroom in their new family home. It had been built with freshly cut boards from the sawmill where her father worked. In just 1 year since they all had moved from Pennsylvania to Upper Canada, Selina had grown a whole inch. Selina's new bed stood beside her, covered with grandmother's brightly patterned bear paw quilt. She rubbed her hands gently over the dark green patches from grandmother's wedding dress. Selina took a deep breath. The breeze drifting through the window smelled of freshly plowed fields. Behind them, not yet, white trilliums were peeping around willow trees that lined the shores of the Conestoga River. A robin was busily building a nest in the maple tree close by. I love our new house and our new village of St. Jacobs. Selina wanted to shout it, but she whispered instead. She touched the bear paw quilt one more time, and the only thing that could make the day more perfect would be Selina! Mother called from the kitchen. I need your help. Selina ran down the stairs and almost fell over her little brother Benjamin, who held out his arms to greet her. Selina, Mother shook her head. Be more careful. You're growing up. Already you're 7, and this fall you will start grade 2. School! Selina cried, hugging Benjamin and carrying him to the front window. Look down the road, Benji. Where it turns, you can see the corner of my little log schoolhouse. Mother smiled, handing Selina an apron and cap. There's more to do. She reached for Benjamin and placed him in the high chair. Selina was very excited. Uncle Isaac, Aunt Minerva, and Selina's 4 cousins were coming from Waterloo for dinner. She and Mother had worked most of the day until the kitchen was full of delicious smells. Now they set the long table with extra places for their company. Selina stopped suddenly to listen. She could hear the clapping of horses' hooves coming down their lane. She lifted Benjamin from his high chair and ran with him to the front porch. From the sawmill, Father must have seen the visitors coming too, for he was striding behind the buggy as it slowed to a stop and everyone clambered down. Our house is almost like yours, Clara, Selina burst out, holding her eldest cousin's hand. Come inside, I'll show you. Coats and hats were hung on a peg rail along the kitchen wall, and everyone found a place at the table. They bowed their heads for a silent prayer. Scalloped potatoes, roast, chopped pepper, cabbage, bean salad with sour cream dressing, fresh bread, 3 kinds of jam, and cut green beans were passed down the table until every plate was full. It was so good I cannot eat another bite, Uncle Isaac said as he cleaned his plate. Ah, Father laughed. And there's pie yet. Without pie at the end of a meal, I wouldn't feel I was finished. Selina carried two Dutch apple pies directly from the oven. Everyone helped themselves to a slice. When they were about to leave the table, Uncle Isaac made a surprise announcement. I have a letter to read from someone very special in Pennsylvania. Grandmother! Selina gasped. Uncle Isaac slowly opened the letter and began to read. My dear ones, what a hard time it is for everyone, especially our people in this country divided by war. Last week, our Jacob and his family had to flee from Virginia. Their farm, the house, the barn, and all the outbuildings were burned to the ground. Many of their neighbors were killed, but their family escaped across the border and will live with us. It's their son, Henry, who suffers the most. He cannot eat or sleep. We think it would be good for him to visit you in Upper Canada. I have booked passage for Henry and me on the train that comes to Waterloo next week. We will spend the month of May with you. Selina and I will bake bread and Henry's favorite, Shoo-Fly pie. So they had to escape the war, eh? Isaac, Selina's father cried. That means the train will arrive in 2 days. Selina's mind raced as the company left that night. The first thing she would do was show grandmother her newly finished quilt and the little corner that she had stitched all by herself. For 2 whole days she thought about grandmother's letter, while the images of terrible war sent chills through her body. And for 2 whole days she wondered about those funny sounding pies. Poor Henry. If he liked shoe-fly pies, she would help bake them, whatever they were. Mother and Selina scurried about the cellar, checking the shelves where the loaves of homemade bread and pies were stored. There was canned fruit, vegetables, and crocks of apple butter. Upstairs the pantry was well stocked with sugar, molasses, pickles, and butter. Finally they both agreed there was plenty for everyone. This will be Grandma and Henry's home away from home, Selina said, as she grabbed an old straw hat and slipped out the back door to gather fresh eggs she, she could find in the chicken house. A sparkling spring day dawned for the arrival of the Pennsylvania visitors. Butterflies fluttered around the porch as Selina and Benjamin waited on tiptoes to catch the first glimpse of Uncle Isaac's buggy. They were beginning to think it would never come when at last it appeared at the bend in the road. They're here! Selina shouted as she ran out to meet them. An instant later, Selina was in grandmother's arms. Stevie. Then Selina noticed a tall, thin boy, his brown hair blue in rippling curls, but his dark eyes were filled with fear. Henry. Selina reached out and took his limp hand. Father joined them. Welcome, Henry, he smiled and placed his strong arm around Henry's shoulder. I have something I want to show you later, after you've had a rest. New logs have just come to the sawmill and they must be cut into boards. You might be interested in watching. Henry barely looked up, but Selina thought she noticed a slight expression of interest on his face. Oh, I don't need to rest, he said, his voice just above a whisper. Selina squeezed his hand and smiled at him. Oh, good. Then we'll go right now. Without hesitating, Father took Henry's other hand and started walking him down the road toward the sawmill. We'll be back in time for dinner, he called over his shoulder. Bless your father, grandmother said as she wiped her eye and entered the new framed house. Selina immediately took grandmother upstairs to see her treasured bear paw quilt. I think of you every night, Grandma, Selina said, but it's nicer to have you here. Grandmother smiled. Still, this will keep you warm next winter when I'm back in Pennsylvania. I'm happy you have it, Selina. And just look at your stitches. Someday you will be a quilter too. After grandmother saw her room and Benjamin had was put to sleep in his bed, grandmother and Selina went to the kitchen to begin baking. Selina was about to ask about the funny sounding pies when her grandmother whispered, I have something new and delicious to teach you to bake. It's called Shoo-Fly pie, and it's Henry's favorite. Grandmother collected everything she needed from the pantry, especially molasses. She laughed as she looked up where the flies were already buzzing, as if they were just waiting for something. All afternoon the two worked steadily making pie crusts, filling them with molasses and sprinkling the tops with crumbs. Finally, pie after pie was set on the kitchen table to cool. Ah, Selina, grandmother cried, the flies are swarming. Shoe-fly pie! Selina laughed. Now I know where the name came from. I think the flies must like these pies as much as Henry does. Selina grabbed the fly swatter down from the wall. She swung it back and forth so hard that she hit one of the pies. It fell to the floor, sending crumbs and molasses in all directions. "Oh, Grandma!" Selina cried, lifting her hands above her head and dropping the swatter. Mother appeared with Benjamin in her arms. "What's all this?" she cried. Just then the back door swung and Father and Henry walked in. "I smell Shoo-Fly pies!" Henry exclaimed and picked up the fly swatter. "Maybe I should do the shoeing for you, Selina." He scooped up the fallen pie, placed it on the table. Selina saw that he was smiling. Everyone was amazed at the sudden change in Henry. Father beamed as he announced, Henry worked with us at the mill today instead of watching, and he did such good work that he has been given a job for as long as he's here." Henry put the swatter down. He stood straight and tall, looking directly at them. "I've made up my mind. Some day I'm going to build houses here in Upper Canada. Houses that will never be blown to bits with cannons and gunfire." Selina ran to Henry and threw her arms around him. "Oh, I'll bake you Shoo-Fly pies if you do, Henry," she said solemnly. "You can have a piece every day." Henry smiled at Grandmother. "I think I should taste one first, Selina, just to be sure." Father laughed and patted Henry on the back. Before long, even before supper, everyone was eating Selina's Shoo-Fly pie. And there is how you can make Shoo-Fly pie. Oh, no, no, no. Let's get a look there.